Hello guys, I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and the message reads like this. Hello, how are you, my brother? Can you please post my story? So my story goes like this. I found myself in South Africa because of the economic hardship that was in our country. I had to travel and look for a job in South Africa. Whilst I was in South Africa, I was okay because I was working for this certain Indian couple. My life was okay. I could not complain because each and every month I had enough money to buy a few clothes for myself, food, and also send some money back home to my parents. My life was good and I didn't even have the time to find or look for love. I was just single and I was happy. I was not staying in the locations. I was a stay-in maid. My life, I can say that it was perfect. The reason why I had decided to stay single, it was because back home in the village, there was this other boyfriend of mine. Me and him, we grew up together. We started dating in high school and he came from a very poor family. Even when I came to South Africa, he was really worried. For a couple of months, he told me not to go because he was going to try and do gold mining so that he can get the money so that me and him, we can travel together to South Africa. But unfortunately, when he went there to try this thing of gold mining, they got robbed on his way back to the village. So when the date for me to travel to South Africa arrived, he didn't have any money at all. My parents then forced me to travel to South Africa alone, and the situation at home was the thing that was forcing me to migrate out of my country. When I arrived here in South Africa, for a couple of months, I lost communication with him because he had traveled to the capital city to find a job, but unfortunately he could not get a job. But me and my boyfriend, we started communicating again. This was after I had secretly bought a phone for him. Then I sent that phone to my younger sister. I told my younger sister not to tell my parents who that phone belonged to. I just lied to my parents and I told them that someone in the village had asked me to buy a phone for them, since here in South Africa phones were quite cheaper than the prices back home. But that phone did not belong to anyone but my boyfriend. When my boyfriend was back in the village, my little sister went to their house. Then my little sister gave my boyfriend that phone. So when I was in communication with my boyfriend back in the village, I was okay, even though there was a big distance between me and him. But that love that he was giving me on the phone, it was more than enough. Yes, whenever I would go out, maybe just to relax in the park, or if I was sent to buy bread, there were men that used to tell me that they love me, but I never even thought of dating another guy, since I told myself that when I have raised enough money, then me and my boyfriend who was back in the village, we can get married and have kids of our own. For me, that thought was more than enough. So I stayed faithful, I think for about 7 months. So I decided to stay single like that. I was just focusing on my job. But one day I wanted to go to town so that I can send money back to my parents. On that day, it was a holiday, so I had to walk from that place where I was working, and walking to town, it was quite a long distance. Yes, there were people that used to walk to town, but it was always a risk because before you could get into town, there were some industries that you were supposed to pass, and that place, especially if it was on weekends or holidays, it was not a safe place, and for a woman it was not a safe place at all. But I didn't have any choice because I tried waiting for a taxi, but there was no taxi that was coming. Maybe it was because it was a holiday, so I started walking. I didn't want to bother my bosses, so I decided to walk to town on foot. As I was walking, that is when this guy, he stopped his car. That man was driving a very beautiful car. It was a sports car, a Mercedes Benz. He stopped, then he asked me where I was going. I told him that I was walking to town Then he said I should get into the car so that he would drop me because he was also going to town. At first, I was scared because he was a man and here he was driving a very beautiful car. I thought that what if he is a Satanist or someone who was going to kill me? But I didn't have a choice because there was no transport for me to go to town and it was around 11:30. So I finally agreed to get into the car. We drove off, but before we could get to town, he told me that he wanted to go to this certain shop. There was something that he needed from that shop. We went to that shop and unfortunately it took a very long time. By the time that we reached our destination in town, it was around 12:30 p.m. and Pick n Pay was already closed at that time because that is where I wanted to go and send money back to my parents. When we found out that Pick n Pay was already closed, he then offered to send my parents money from his account. Me and that man, we spoke the same language. Then he said, it is not a problem. Usually what I do whenever I want to send money back home, I just use my account. Let me do it. So when he offered to send money to my parents from his account, I thought that after sending my parents the money, then I should give him the money. But after he had done that, he showed me the message that he had received that he had just paid for the order that he had created. Then I started counting the money so that I can give him the money that he had sent to my parents. Then he refused. He said, no, I don't want your money. You know what I want. Then I said, what do you want from me? Then he said, can I please just have your phone number? I wanted to refuse, but I was embarrassed. I felt as if I was owing this man a favor. So I gave him my phone number. I never thought that. And in my heart, I told myself that if he tries to propose love to me when he'll be speaking with me on WhatsApp, like all these other men that I used to give them my phone number used to do, I'll just block him. The first day, that man just greeted me. He kept on doing this for about a week. He never spoke with me. Then it was on a Sunday morning. He asked me what I'll be doing on that day. I told him that nothing. I'll be just chilling in my room listening to music. Then he said, I will come and I will take you. There is some place that I want to go with you. I just agreed. He came and I got into his car. This time around, he was driving a different car from the one that he was driving the first day that I had seen him. And immediately I knew that this guy, he was a rich guy, but I didn't care about his money. I had my own boyfriend who was back home. He took me to this restaurant. I felt ashamed because I didn't even know how to use fork and knife. I had never been in a restaurant before. The only restaurant that I knew was at least KFC and fish and chips. I have never been inside these expensive restaurants. I just watched him as he was eating, then I followed everything that he was doing. After we had finished eating, he took me to another mall, then we started shopping. I bought a few clothes and he was the one who paid for those clothes that I had selected. We drove back to the place where I was working, then he dropped me off. This thing continued for about a month. He never told me that he loved me until one day he confessed his love to me. At that time, I had to make a decision because back home, I was now feeling like my boyfriend was someone who was lazy, who didn't want to work like what other guys were doing. And back home, I was having a little bit of a misunderstanding with my boyfriend who was in the village. My boyfriend seemed as if he was okay with the life that he was living in the village. He didn't care much about going back to the city, even though he had failed the first time. But as a man, I expected that one day he was going to ask me for some money so that he can go back to the city and try to look for a job. But each and every month, since he knew how much I was being paid, he kept on asking me for money. So what I'll do is that I'll send some money to my parents. Then I had to send him money also so that he can buy clothes and buy food to eat for him and his parents. This was not sitting well with me, but I loved him anyway. I just said, these are the sacrifices when you are in love. When I go back home with all the money that I was saving, at least me and my boyfriend, we were going to start a business of our own, and all will be history. But when this guy came into my life, I saw that he was an independent man. Whenever I'll try to do something, because each and every month now what I was doing, he was the one who would come and take me after my boss would have given me my salary. Then he would rush with me to town so that I can send money to my parents. When I would send money to my parents and my boyfriend, a few days after that, he would come back. Then he would give me all the money that I would have used. So I compared this guy and my boyfriend who was back in the village, who was always asking for my money. And I saw that this guy, he was more responsible, even though I loved my boyfriend. I made a decision. Then I told myself that here in South Africa, I was going to date this man, since I didn't know that this guy, if he was married or not. He kept on telling me that he was not married, but I suspected that he was married because with all the money that he had, he was supposed to be a married man. But anyway, I just told myself that when I am here in South Africa, I'll be dating this man whilst I am waiting for my boyfriend to do something with his life. I didn't want to dump my boyfriend because I loved him so much. Things happened so fast. Within a short period of time, I saw that I was already pregnant. When I started sleeping with this man, I was not taking any family planning, but after sleeping with him, I then decided to go to the clinic so that I can be on a family planning. But he got me pregnant whilst I was on that family planning. After I had discovered that I was pregnant, I told him that I am pregnant, and he said that if you are pregnant for me, I am not going to let you work for those people anymore. I want you to be staying at home. So that man, instead of him taking me to his place, I never went to the place where he was staying before we got married. Even today, I don't even know if this man is secretly married or what, because he should have showed me the place where he was staying. But you know what my husband did, Brother Nashi? Instead of him taking me to that place where he was staying, he told me that he was going to find new accommodation so that me and him, we can stay. And it was a full house. This troubled me. When I entered into that house, there was nothing. There was no furniture. So I had to buy all the furniture. Everything was just hectic. But this guy, he had a lot of cash. It is now 4 years since I have been married to him. Not even a single day have I ever seen his bank account with no money. He always have money on him. Yes, he says that he has a lot of businesses here in South Africa, but there are days, even if you have businesses, you are supposed to complain that things are not going okay, but his businesses, they are always prospering. Okay, maybe he's a blessed man, but now the problem that I am facing, the thing that I am regretting getting married to this man, I only know a few of his relatives. In these years that I have stayed with him as husband and wife, I only know a few of his relatives. If I try to look for a way to communicate with some of his relatives, he always finds out, and he'll be so angry at me such that I have stopped. Right now, I am only in communication with 2 of his relatives, and this thing is bothering me each and every day. I am scared of my life. The reason why I am scared, it is because the first time that I fell pregnant, I had a dream. He was trying to grab the baby that I was holding in my arms away from me. And the time that he succeeded in grabbing away my baby that I was holding in my dreams, when the morning came, I saw that I had a miscarriage. This thing, Brother Nashi, it has happened 6 times. Since I have been married to this man, I have had 6 miscarriages. At my age, I keep on asking myself, will I ever be able to give birth? And the problem that I have with my husband, he doesn't want us to stop trying. He just gives me a month to rest. Then the following month, he will start saying that we need to try again for a baby. Maybe this time around, God is going to bless us with a successful pregnancy. But I feel that my body is tired of carrying all of these babies that I can't even hold in my hands. Now I have carried 6 pregnancies and I want this nightmare to stop. The only reason why I am not running away, it is because of my parents and some of my relatives. They are looking at my husband as if he was sent by God to change the destiny of our family, since we are just poor. When they look at my husband, they think that he is the one who is going to change the destiny of our family. Please help me with advice. Should I just sacrifice myself so that the destiny of my family can be changed? Like what my auntie told me. She said that you have to be happy that now we have hope that in our family we will have someone who is rich. Because if you are married to a rich husband, then all of us, we are rich. If we lack anything, we know that if we come to you, you will provide for us. So should I sacrifice myself for the sake of my family? Please, I need advice. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received from our dear sister. Then I had to ask one of our translators to give us a translation. Please let us give her the advice that she is looking for in the comment section.